So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews. And I'd like to welcome back Helen Hartley, who's come on before. And Helen, for anyone that doesn't know who you are or what you do, perhaps you could, and this is the first time they've seen you. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, so I'm a creative director. I started about 25 years ago in London agencies working in branding and identity. And started as a junior designer, worked my way up in London, decided to leave London and come back home to the north where I'm from to buy a house, have a kid, and have a nice green life. I work for a few agencies in Leeds and was the creative director of Elmwood. And then I decided 5 years ago, literally 5 years ago almost, to set up on my own as my own founder. I wanted to work for much more purpose-driven businesses.
Yep,
Not that some of the brands I've worked on aren't purpose-driven, but I really solely wanted to focus on impact-driven businesses
brilliant.
that had a real vision about how to make people's lives healthier or happier. So I purposely set up as a collective rather than just a freelancer jobbing for other people. That's not a great way to build a business, but some people like to do that. So I set up as a collective with a lot of people that I've worked with over the past years in my career, and from different countries, some from the north, and we set up as a an informal cooperative. So we work with there's about 15 of us. We'll work together on projects really small or larger, and we come together with an equitable view of how we want to run a project. So we will all look at a project, look at our skills and strengths, and work out who does what, who's got the expertise in which area, do we need any more expertise, and we will build a bespoke team for the clients and work really closely with the founders. So it's not an agency model where you kind of go ta-da and you've gone away for a couple of months. Nobody knows what you're doing. We work really, really closely with founders, the CMO, the CTO, or the founders themselves and their team if they have one, to really deliver business transformation. That's what a brand should be doing. A brand isn't it, somebody said to me on a call a couple of weeks ago, brand's a really dirty word. And I was like, yeah, I kind of get where they're coming from. Brand sounds like you're spending a lot of money. Somebody does a logo. What's changed? So we come at it from a business transformation point of view. A brand gives you clarity, it gives you team vision, and if you've got the purpose within there, it gives you a really clear way of being able to tell a story, whether that's visually or verbally. That's what we're about. And that's why we work with founders and tech for good founders, but also FMCG founders who have a brilliant story, but are struggling to articulate it. And that's what we help them with, help their team. And we go on this, it sounds really cliched, but we go on this journey with them to upskill the team and to bring a creative lens into their business because creatives look at problems from a really different way of solving
Yeah.
business challenges. So we kind of work as an extension within their boardroom, really, to be able to carry their business transformation forward and to help grow it or help sort of just articulate the proposition in a better way. So it's very strategic what we do now.
Yeah, yeah, no, really interesting. And I guess one question might help some people thinking about brand at the moment. How would I know my current brand is less relevant than it used to be?
I think it can be many different mitigating factors. It could be the obvious thing is, I don't know, no, there's a drop in sales, but that could be many different things as well.
Yes.
So it could be you have a drop in sales or it's stagnating. That's often a problem. It's not
Yep.
kind of almost, it can almost like happen, a bit like, Blockbuster. Everybody used to go to Blockbuster for videos and they
Yep.
just didn't anticipate what was
Yeah.
coming down the road, and they became irrelevant. And
Yep.
so often with a brand, it's like a kind of a medical diagnosis. You sort of might think something's not quite right, but I'm just going to leave it. Um, but that's the point where you
Yeah.
go, why aren't things working? And it could be you started with this really clear category space and nobody else was doing what you do, but people have, even if they don't do exactly the way you do it, people are perceived to be entering your category. And even though you started, you haven't kind of caught up with it. And so you're starting to be kind of sort of taken over by challengers who are
Yes.
coming with new thoughts, new ideas. They're quite innovative. So often we sometimes work with founders who have got the idea and need to articulate it, but sometimes we work with SMEs that have kind of taken the foot off the gas, I would say, and not in terms of being complacent, but because you're so entrenched in your own brand, you're not necessarily looking at what's going on outside, and sometimes it takes people by surprise. So it could be just a plateau. Doesn't need to be, oh
Yes.
my God, this is a mitigated disaster, but that is when you need to go, okay, so let's analyze that. What are
Yeah.
we doing? What were we doing that might not be working now? You might have had great ways of working and things you were doing that just aren't landing now. They're not relevant with your audience anymore.
That makes a lot of sense. It's sort of been relevant. As you
Yeah.
said, the challenge I guess most of us have for our own businesses is it's a lot easier outside looking in than it is inside looking out. So we might feel we're relevant, but so factors like the marketing message isn't landing as strongly, the sales aren't as strong as you say, or is stagnating. So it's almost, I mean, it feels almost like there's almost a time limit to this, and I'm not going to suggest we set a time limit, but if things haven't changed in the business for a period of time, we perhaps should be asking ourselves why, and engaging with someone like you to help us and your team to help us think about what might be different.
Yeah, because it's not often the briefs we get mainly are never there's never a creative brief or a problem written on a piece of paper. Doesn't happen. We go in and the founder might go, I don't know, we're not sure what's not working. Can you just have a look? So it'll almost start with a bit of a diagnosis of let's have a look at what you're doing. What are you trying to do? And interviewing them and really trying to get to the crux of maybe what how they started out and what they the path they set on has maybe changed over time because as people grow their business you might kind of pivot or you might decide to go in a different direction. So often the brand that started is not caught up with the story that you're trying to tell. And so it's not that somebody's got the logo's terrible, the colors aren't working, the website's broken. It's not that, it's just you haven't sort of updated the brand
Yeah.
story identity to match where you are now. So that is really, really kind of often the case. And then it's kind of, well, you're doing great things, but you're not punching above your weight. This all needs to really elevate what you are already doing. So sometimes it's not what they're doing, it's how they're perceived.
Yes, and I think yeah. I mean, I just think pondering on the point about stagnation, it's something that happen. These things happen over time, and so it's not some big change. And you go right, we've got to change the markets. The market stopped, therefore we have to re change. It's just the market drifts away from us, and it's the drift is the issue.
Yeah.
I guess. Um, so a review is something that would be sensible to on a regular basis. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
yeah, I think everybody should review where they're up to with their brand because I think what a kind of sort of what we find a lot is we work with founders that maybe have spent 2 years developing an MVP, a product or a service. Could be a tech service, it could be anything. Um, and then they'll think and they'll do a little bit of branding, like I don't know, go on Fiverr, grab a logo, do some Canva
Yep.
templates. Yeah, great to get you going. Why not?
Yep.
And that's what it's for. But then we'll kind of come to them and they're stuck because they're not sure where to go with it because it's not really a brand is all about a foundation like building a house. So if you don't build the foundations at the beginning, you're going to kind of have to go back and look at that
Yep.
before you can do your extension, basically. So we often find a lot of brands have started out, but they've almost outgrown where they got to. And then they need to go, how do we get to the next level? How do we get investors? Because we've proved that what we're doing is working, but how do we get some growth? And that's where you
Yeah,
really need to start seriously looking at not just most founders have their vision and they really know what their mission is and their story, but they just do not articulate it. And they're
yeah,
lost in the product and the day-to-day, everyday operational running of the business. And so we come in not with like this magic wand and go, da-da, we've solved everybody's problems. We come in and just talk to people and listen to them. And usually they have the answer. It's just trying to pull it out of
yeah.
people, give it a clarity, and get a story that other people can understand in 30 seconds. Like,
Perfect.
do I get what you do and why do I care? That's what we always say. And if you can articulate that and get them to a point where visually and verbally, the founder doesn't need to be in a room. They can go off and hire people. They can grow the business because everybody in the business understands what it is they do and how to talk to people about it. So it's like the missing link between the product and the audience. It's the story.
Yes. And you've identified something really important there. It's not just the founder or the marketing team, it's everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody needs to know.
yeah.
Maybe you could give us a couple of examples of work you've done that sort of paint that picture for us.
Yeah, so our latest, well, it was actually about a year and a bit ago now. We were working with a company called Safe to Net, Safe to Net, and they were developing a product to keep children and adults safe online. So
Right?
they had an ethically trained algorithm that they were working. They had a bit of government funding, not much in terms of tech. Tech costs that millions of
Yeah.
pounds to develop.
Yes.
But they were doing this. They created an MVP. They created a product that was working and that had proof of concept that could literally be put into the operating device of any mobile or any screen, and it would stop any harmful content being shown on
Right.
the screen, recorded on the screen, or shared on the screen. So we were helping them really articulate their brand positioning because we said you're punching below your weight. Um, you need to be talking about how you really kind of give people a way of reimagining their future. That's what these infrastructure projects do. The end benefit of doing a big infrastructure project is that people should economically, socially, and environmentally benefit from this. It shouldn't be a detriment. And so the way that they are facilitating that conversation to give everybody a fair voice was really important. So we're working with them at the moment. So this is a company that have been going for 10 years, doing really well. They're doing so well, they're just hiring staff all the time, they're growing. But the founder said to me a couple of weeks ago, he said, I didn't realize that by doing the branding, we go on such a business transformation journey with the team. And from his point of view, setting it up 10 years ago, he's very different from when from there to now. So the fact that he can feel like the brand is almost like a real awakening of his business, and it's the kind of the next chapter of his story. And he said he's found just the journey, and we do lots of bespoke workshops, and we tailor everything to who we're working with. So some people might need to go fast and might understand what branding is and marketing. Some people have maybe never done it before.
Yeah.
So it's really about getting everybody to get to the same place so that they're all really invested in not just the brand at the end of it, but the story that they all feel like they've created with us. So that because they're going to be the ones that take the brand on and make it successful and have amazing amounts of impact. And we're just really like facilitators and giving them
Yes.
clarity to help them go on and do it themselves.
No, that it makes perfect sense. And you mentioned something earlier. Do you think, in your experience, companies think too small or too big in general?
I think um, at the moment and the past couple of years, I've seen a lot of short-term thinking and planning, so short-termism. And I get it. I am a business owner. I work with all the people I work with. We all own small businesses. I get it. It's like cash flow. What's the next immediate thing that you need to do? But I think that only gets you so far for so long because you're just on this hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And to create any valuable change, you need to really invest in the building of the business, not
Yes.
just the delivery of your products and services. So I've been seeing a lot of short-termism and a lot of people trying to adopt AI. I mean, AI is just a tool. It's like when computers came out. I was a graphic designer before we had a computer. You had to typeset things. This is how old I am. But the important point was if you don't have a good idea, it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
tool you use. If I could pick up an IKEA how to build your own home and build it, would it stand up? Probably not. I could probably have a go, but would I really get an expert in? Probably, because that's probably the best
Yes.
idea.
Yeah.
So I think AI is very experimental and people are trying it, which is great. But I also have a bit of a bugbear that AI is also a massive drain on the green sort of economy
Yeah.
in terms of energy. And I think if you're using it for the right reasons, but there are a lot of people using AI, which what I would call for reasons that don't have a positive impact on society. So I would say I think it's a moral question as to how you use it and why you're using it. And
Yeah.
sometimes it automates things and makes things faster. Tedious jobs where you can focus on big the bigger picture. So I'm all for that. But I think it's just a lot of people are experimenting and they're using it for the wrong things, like trying to build a brand vision and your brand. It's like if you can't articulate it yourself, nobody else can do it for you. So you
Yeah.
have to be part of building it.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that across the board, it's like it's the identity of the business is fundamentally a reflection of the identity of the owners, isn't it? And it's
Yeah,
like, so trying to get somebody else to work out what that looks like is a bit nuts, because it's going to be clearly, um, partially that person's identity and beliefs and values and all those sorts of things going on. So, no,
yeah.
yeah, it makes perfect sense. Now, you mentioned before we started that you've done some work with, say, Akiwowo, on something that sounds more like a movement than a brand. How does that sort of work differ from what you normally do?
Well, actually, it's probably going to turn into what I would call a digital care infrastructure. So it will be a platform. So with Shay, we met in Parliament in a debate on women's safety and the fact that women MPs, less people are going into politics because they're fearful for their lives, their
Right.
um, identity. So therefore, with less diversity from the population in a place that makes decisions about the population and policies, it becomes the democracy. Is it really truly reflective of everybody? Because it isn't. So we met there to kind of go, well, how can we make things safer? And it was a debate. Dawn Butler MP was chairing the debate. And I was saying from a brand point of view and a business point of view, I said, well, the government should be investing in care and digital safety online. It should be care should be part of the infrastructure of companies, not just a well-being tick box at the end. It should be part of the how you build a better
Yes.
company. And Shay has also built a charity called Glitch, which was about digital safety. And since then, she's now kind of got to a point in her life where she's able to think about how to embed care into how companies operate. So giving them a framework, which is why I think her aim is to train, I think it's 1 million people by 2030 in how to use the online world and take care of people. So it's called Train the Trainer. So this Train the Trainer is the working title name that we need to brand, but it will be like a platform. It will be like a digital resource library of all resources for parents, for charities, for people who want to embed governance into their companies. But it will also have a training modules and things like that. So there'll be lots of elements to it. So really, it's like her personal brand, but it's now become a bigger movement. So it's not just campaigning, because we were saying on a call a couple of weeks ago, she got an award from Hillary Clinton in New York
Oh
for
well,
a contribution to tech. And we said it's all very well creating a movement, but you need to create solutions. So that's what she's doing. She's solutionizing how
yep,
to embed care into the digital world. So that's what we're helping her with. So it's not it's kind of a challenge, a business challenge that is about a societal problem, and we're working through how we build it with her. So it's about building it. So it's really different. It's not just, oh, I've got a brand, can you rebrand it? It's building a a brand, a kind of an identity, I think,
yep,
and a story. And then how do we get philanthropic investors to donate a lot of money,
yes,
because tech platforms cost a lot of money to fund, to test, and then to maintain.
yeah, no, that make yeah, absolutely, and therefore, yeah, and I guess. I mean, alongside that, and I know you talked about working with some community organisations. How do those sorts of projects differ from a corporate commercial SME client?
Do you know what? I think a lot of I've worked with a local charity, an arts charity, who's like an umbrella brand, brings all the various community charities together under one umbrella so that they can apply for funding and things like that. And it's like a hub. And then the other one is also something called Kirkstall Valley, which is about creating a viable, vital economy for outside Leeds and covering several different wards where investment is really hard to find. So by
Yes.
having an umbrella brand, it makes it a stronger investment in terms of um, public health, mental well-being, economic investment. So I've been working with those people. The Kirkstall Valley projects have been working and corralling 15 councillors from Leeds to all come together to kind of have a shared vision about what their brand's about. So that was very strategic. So it doesn't differ at all, to be honest, because I think the charity sector and any CIC or non-profit, if they don't have a clear story, it will not work.
Yeah.
You can't rely on volunteers, handouts, and grant funding. So I apply this very kind of rigorous strategic process to a charity down the road for me, just as much as a global infrastructure project in Canada, because it does not matter, small or big, you still need clarity and a really, really clear story to get buy-in, stakeholders, volunteers, and to get people to back you.
Yeah, it's I always liken it to the Field of Dreams quote where he says if you know if we build it they will come, and
Yeah,
whether it's a business with a great product or service or a great cause, that you know just because we're a great cause or we've got a great product doesn't mean people are going to turn up if they don't know what we do, how we do it, the problems we solve, why
yeah,
we're there, and how they connect. So it makes perfect sense. Let's move away from hope or belief
yeah,
into things that really work would
yeah.
makes absolute sense to me. Um, so Helen, I mean that's been really fascinating to you. What looking forward now? Obviously, we talked a little bit about what you've done so far. What's the next chapter of the work you're doing as you look into the future, and what are some of the main challenges do you think you might face?
Um, I think I think AI and this adoption of AI, which is like a tool, like anything else, I think that will be interesting to see how people integrate that into their business processes, and therefore I think there'll be a lot of businesses in the next sort of after probably next year who'll go, do you know what? Can we get some help because we've done it, but it's not quite working. I think there'll be a lot of that. I think it'll be kind of for SMEs who are trying to save money and or not necessarily invest in brand and telling the right story to the right people and staying relevant. I think that investment, I think hopefully it will start to be unlocked in the next sort of year or two, because I think people have been trying to do it themselves, and I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So I think that will
Yeah.
come to a point where there'll be people that do need some strategic help. So I think that'll be interesting to see who starts talking to us, going, "We've done this, but can you just have a look? Because we kind of need we need a second opinion, I guess." So
Yeah.
I think that'll be interesting. I think I personally, with my partners, we just want to do more really impact focused work. We've worked on infrastructure. A lot of it's to do with social and economic impact, and it's really just finding more people that understand in investing in storytelling, visually and verbally, is is part of creating a business, and is not an add-on at the end, like, oh, if we're running out of money, let's just knock the marketing off and the brand. It's like, well,
Yes.
that's the whole thing that drive that's
Absolutely.
it's like the creativity and the way that you think and the way that especially entrepreneurs think about innovating, changing systems, creating new ways of working. Creativity, I think I read something that the Design Business Association published, which I'm a member of, which measures creativity and branding work directly with business results, so return on investment. And they were saying that one of the things that probably won't be replaced and will get more needed is creative thinking, not not the tool, but
Yeah.
the creative thought process,
Yeah.
about innovation, about doing things differently, about changing systems, because everything is changing. Quantum computing's, still is on the horizon, and it will trickle down to businesses. It's like there are so many interesting things happening in tech at the moment. So it will need some really great creative thinkers and strategic thinkers
Yeah.
in all parts of business. So that's what excites me.
No, that's it. Yeah, no, makes absolute sense, and I can see why. And I think the key point, one of the key points there is, and I remember our founder Brad wrote a book quite a few years ago now, but it was about marketing and branding, and it was called it's nothing to do. It was called buying customers, and the point being is effective branding marketing is an investment to buy more customers. And you're exactly correct, in my opinion, that if businesses or organisations cut their marketing budget, they're choosing not to buy any more customers. That's as stark as it is. So, however we do it, and whatever the current challenges we face, if we don't have a consistent investment in how we get more customers, then guess what's going to happen? No more customers are going to turn up, and and again, I guess that's going back to the point. That's where stagnation happens. Stagnation is probably, if we're good at what we do, we'll get repeat business, so we'll have the steady line. But if we're not actually buying more customers through effective brand and marketing for the people that don't know us yet, then we're not getting the upward curve. And unfortunately, as Michael Gerber I think said, a business or an organisation is like a tree; it's either growing or dying. So stagnation only lasts for a period, and then unfortunately, it's a downward curve. Um,
Yeah, I spoke to a founder a couple of years ago. I was interviewing him for B Corp, and what does B Corp mean to you? It was an FMCG brand, and just saying, because I was thinking of being a B Corp, and it's a lot of money for a small business. So I just built the business on B Corp principles and used
yeah,
the framework, but the certification's thousands of pounds. And I just thought, you know what,
yeah,
as long as I'm doing things in the right way, that's brilliant. But he said to me, if you don't move forward, you just stagnate and you're going nowhere.
yeah.
So the idea that you have to, if you want to build a business, you have to keep building. You can't just build it and think we're done now.
No, 100%. There's been a phrase around for a very long time, which is if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. I, um,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
friend of mine actually modified that quite a long time ago now, but I remember him saying it, and he basically said, if you always do what you've always done, your history,
yeah,
because the
yeah,
world is moving on, the customers are moving on, what they need, what they want, how they want it is changing. So if we don't consistently review who we are, what we do, what our brand is, and make it relevant to the new generation of customers that we want to attract, then we will be history. And that's an unfortunate thing to say, but we have the choice to invest and work with people like yourself to refresh and renew, or to believe, probably foolishly, that things will just always be the same.
yeah. And I think that's really important. I think so when somebody said to me brand is a dirty word, I thought I get that, but I think the definition of branding is just been tarnished by people thinking, oh, somebody spent £500,000 on the Olympic logo, and my child
Yes.
could have done it, and all that sort of stuff. Those sort of stories and the assumption from the press and things like that don't really help, because I think like my charities that I've been working with, when started working together, they kind of had a rough idea what I did, but they didn't really know. And but going through the workshops and the process and getting them to go, actually, well, you all know what the brand is because you all buy things, you all donate to things. So why do you do that? And it's about going, why do you emotionally connect to something
Yeah.
and not to others? And that story is what branding is. It's not
Yes.
the the badge. It's the
Yeah.
emotional connection. So we always, as humans, we emotionally connect to things for one reason or another.
Yes.
And so that will never change, which is why I think um, people kind of go, "Oh God, you can design a website in 10 minutes, like just put it on and it'll just be done for you in 10 minutes." And it's kind of like, well, but the emotional connection to your customers, you need to find out what that is. You need to talk to people
Yeah.
about why they connect with you. It's not just a box ticking exercise. So that emotional connection will never be replaced because that is a human trait.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, speaking plainly or frankly, I think a long time, it was a long time ago now, but there was definitely a time when I didn't really, and I didn't. I think again, the point is understand the difference.
Yeah.
One thing Action Coach teaches a lot is um, where possible, measure the impact of your marketing. So lead generation is, but what I've come to realise, and therefore I remember having a fairly heated conversation with someone about the difference between lead generation and brand, etc. And I'll be perfectly frank, coming from a position of ignorance on my part. So, but what I've come to really realise is the brand is the identity of the business. It's who we
Mm,
are. So if we want our marketing, our lead generation to be more effective,
mm.
we need to be really clear on who we are, what we do, who our customers are, what problems we solve for them, all those things. And that I would suggest is comes from the whole branding exercise. And if we don't do that, then we're just hoping people get it.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's an identity piece. It's not just about brands like big brands. It's about, the charities. I was speaking to somebody from some sort of kind of rewilding charity, and he was really anti-brand, going, "Oh, it's just, sort of capitalism selling stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, okay, but why are you called what you're called, and why do you do what you do, and you write
brilliant.
stories about your projects, so you are." Doing a brand world, whether you like to admit it or not,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're communicating what you do. So that is what a brand is. So it's kind of like, well, everybody needs to communicate what they do, hey? Because
100%.
how are you going to tell people, that we're saving trees if you're not communicating that what you're doing? It's all. So I think, yeah, I think people have that this is why it's like, do we change it to say we're visual and verbal storytellers? I don't know. There's so many different sort of words you could use, but I think brand is a go-to, easy to understand, but
Yeah.
it has so much baggage with it. It's really it's become its own worst enemy, I think now. So I think it's more about really kind of working with people to deliver business transformation, not necessarily growth, because growth isn't always what people need, but transforming businesses to tell a clear story.
Great. I think, as you say, the clarification of what brand is the piece that's important. I literally did an exercise a couple of hours ago with a client when we were talking about trust, and I won't get into too much detail, but I said, well, you write down 5 words that mean the same as trust, and I'll write the same.
Yeah.
So now you'd think trust is a fairly straightforward word and only one was the same.
Mm.
Of the 5 alternate words we used, only one was the same. And I think that's the challenge with words like branding, isn't it? Is that we've all got an interpretation, but it's really important that we all understand more what it means and what it means for us, so that we understand the value more of how what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, I think it's the investment in the value of telling a really compelling story to either get people to jump on board and sort of solve challenges in the world. That's what it is. And I think we err on the side of only wanting to work with people that are solving real challenges, not selling more consumer goods to people that don't need it, and it's not necessarily that good for them. So and that's where I came from. I was, I did some amazing projects with Coca-Cola, Unilever, Kimberly Clark, flew all over the world when I was 20, thought it was brilliant. And then got to a point where I was like, have I given anything back to the world? Probably not really. So why don't I try and find some people and businesses that through giving them a clearer vision and story, they can have the impact that
Brilliant.
I feel like I've had a hand in, because I'm not going to develop an AI algorithm to keep kids safe online. I'm not going to run an Indigenous populations infrastructure project. But if I can have helped do that and
Yes.
facilitate that, then I feel like I've kind of actually had some sort of impact on through using creativity for good, basically.
Brilliant. Love it. And there's clarity of your brand, which I really love. Helen, it's been fascinating to talk to you again. And before we go, perhaps for anyone that's watching that is thinking, well, maybe this is right. Maybe I need to think. What might be one or two of the tips that you might give somebody to identify that perhaps they do need to engage with yourself or someone like you?
I think the first thing to do is you talk to your team. I think but obviously as a founder, or depending on how big your team is, or if you're closely guided with how you run your business, I think the best results always come from if the team have had an input into what the
Yes.
challenge is in the first place. So, because without that, you're just navel gazing, which I call it, it's just like you just having a conversation with yourself, which isn't always
Yep.
helpful. So I think the first thing is chat to trusted sort of C-suite members, but not just those sort of people. Chat to the team, get an evaluation of what is the business, where is the business going, what are the challenges that we're facing. Like I think you need to it's kind of a bit of self-diagnosis. It's kind of like sometimes it might be painful, but face into the challenges and then they become things that you can overcome, and you just need the right people to do it. And it might not be somebody like me, it might be completely different. It might be an operational challenge. But if things aren't working or things could be better, I think talking to the team is really important, because when we work with businesses, we talk to members of the team, because then you get a holistic view of how you deliver something that everybody can use, because there is
Yeah.
no point doing something for a business that only the people in the room know what we've done, and it's just enforced on everybody else. So I think it's about that really cliche, but teamwork and honesty and transparency. If you really want to run a culturally democratic sort of business, Obviously, there still needs to be decision makers, but I think you really do need to test the temperature of and clients as well and customers.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's nothing more engaging actually than if you're a business and you're just delivering things to actually just take a bit of time out and do some customer engagement surveys. Like just get a read on what people are thinking of you because you might be surprised and think, actually, God, they've said like service levels are really good and they really enjoy speaking to us on the phone. But actually, we were going to move to a chatbot and get rid of those
Yes.
conversations because they cost too much time. But now we've realized that if that is something that
Brilliant.
our customers really value, the cost saving of getting rid of that is not doesn't make sense because that's a real strength to us. So I think you have to talk to people outside your organization, inside your organization, before you then probably look up somebody like us and go, I think we could do with a bit of help. Can you then come in and we've got a few things that we think are the areas and what would it take to invest in each of those? And then it's like a diagnosis. We call it like a creative sprint. And we just go, we'll do just a couple of days, give us all your materials, sign an NDA, tell us about your business, and then we'll come back with this is what we think you need to do in this order. You don't need to do it all at once, but you were thinking of doing this, but we don't think that's going to make a big impact. Like, and it could be like, oh, redesign the entire website. And it's like, actually, maybe it's just the content that's not working. The website's fine. So we can kind of come in and go, it's a diagnosis. You choose to use your own people, it doesn't matter. But to have that overview, I think that's what
Yeah.
we give when we've got context and people have had a bit of time to give us some data and some thoughts themselves, because I think coming to us cold, they haven't had time to process it. So it's better if they come with some thoughts and they've had
Brilliant.
time to look at their own business and actually go, what are the challenges we're facing?
Wonderful. Ellen, it's been, as I say, fascinating to talk to you again. And for anyone that is watching that would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way of doing that?
Just on my on LinkedIn, which is Helen Hartley. You'll find me, Leeds, or helenhartleyconsulting.com and my website. If you go on LinkedIn, I've also got a company page. So most of our clients come from referrals and people that have seen us in a room or seen us speak and go, I'd like to have a conversation. So what we tend to do is we just have a conversation with people. Let's find out if we can help you and how we can help you. And then you take it from there. It's not
Brilliant.
like, buying a product off the shelf. It doesn't really work like that.
No.
And I think also you've got to chat to people because we work really closely with people. They have to put as much effort in because it needs to be a really collaborative journey. Because we work with our clients, we don't have clients like every single month, new ones coming up. We work with people for, sort of at least sort of 3 to 9 months, and then probably carry on, and it's an ongoing trust building relationship. So that's
Yes.
how we work. We don't work as a, oh, that's the project, right? There you go, it's delivered, off we pop and on to somebody else. So we really need to invest our time and expertise, but also our passion into who we're working with. Because I think working with people that care as much as you do is really important.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Lovely. Well, as I say, it's been great talking to you, and let's do it again soon and just learn what's
Yeah,
next on the horizons and what you've learned from things that you've done in the future. So, but for now, thank you so much for your time.
thank you, Chris.
Thank you.